U.S. Customs and Border Patrol apprehended more than 172,000 migrants attempting to cross into the country last month. That's over 70% more apprehensions than in February. Families taken into custody increased by 175%, and the number of unaccompanied children taken into custody reached 19,000, an all-time high. Mexico's Santa Rosa Hotel in Piedras Negras in Mexico has become a popular destination for migrants headed to the U.S. It's only 3.5 blocks away from the U.S. border. Enrique Acevedo visited the hotel and spoke with some of the migrant families staying there. The story about his visit will air on 60 Minutes this Sunday. Here's a preview.
En este hotel aquí vivimos ya llevamos mes y medio.
Donny Bowden and his wife Esli told us they arrived at the Santa Rosa with their children Jackie and Madison after traveling for nearly a month from Honduras, where last fall's back-to-back hurricanes Eta and Iota took away all they owned, including their home.
Y perdimos todo. Sí.
Cuando dices perdimos todo,
es todo.
Todo.
Sí.
Casa,
todo,
ropa,
todo.
Trabajo.
Trabajo, pues sí, más la cuarentena de la pandemia, pero los empleos y ahí pues perdimos nuestro trabajo y ocupamos sacar adelante a los niños, pues es lo primero. Y por lo mismo tanto salimos de allá del país.
Before they reached the Santa Rosa, they slept where they could and ate what people gave them along their journey. At times, it was perilous. Hitching a ride on a freight train with other migrants heading north, and getting caught in a wildfire while they were staying at an abandoned home in the Mexican countryside. The family also documented moments of relief, like this evening with fellow travelers they met along the way. Rates at the privately owned Santa Rosa are a modest 300 pesos a night, or about $15.
Hola, hello.
Donny said he worked in construction in Honduras, but now makes money by asking for it on the streets of Piedras Negras.
Pagamos el hotel y les damos de comer a los niños también.
¿Y ustedes?
No, pues también.
Nos sustentamos toda la familia.
For more on this, Enrique joins me now from Jalisco, Mexico. Enrique, thank you for being here. So what's fueling the latest increase of this arrival of unaccompanied minors and families from Central America? Are the so-called push factors the same in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras?
And thanks for having me, Lana. And that's a great question because nuance is sometimes what's missing from our debate about immigration. And no, they're not the same in Guatemala as they are in Honduras or El Salvador. We just saw how this family coming from Honduras was fleeing 2 consecutive storms, Hurricane Category 4, and then a Category 5 hitting just within a couple of weeks in that country. And that has caused, of course, the displacement of thousands of people who are arriving at the U.S.-Mexico border. Factors like climate change are at play now when we talk about migration from the so-called Northern Triangle in Central America. We know about violence and bad governance. We've heard about the lack of economic opportunity, but these new elements like disinformation campaigns, the impact the pandemic is having in that part of the world, and of course, climate change are also becoming more prevalent.
And one of the main characters in your piece, Enrique, crossed into the U.S. with his daughter and son, but was sent back to Mexico just hours later. How does Border Patrol determine which migrants remain in the U.S.?
Victor Velasquez crossed the Rio Grande with his daughter Daniela in his back and his son David. In the early hours of the day we saw them, it only took 4 hours for them to be apprehended by Border Patrol agents and sent back to Mexico. It's not clear who gets to stay and who's sent back. Sometimes families with young children, what they call tender age children, are allowed to remain in the U.S. We saw that country of origin might be a factor here in making that decision. A lot of families from Haiti, from Venezuela, families from Cuba were allowed to stay. What we saw firsthand was the case. And then families from Central America were being sent back to Mexico. Once they're returned to Mexico, there's no one waiting on the other side. There's no humanitarian infrastructure or any sort of assistance. There's just the Santa Rosa and some what we call safe houses where they try to spend the night and figure out what's next for them.
I want to ask you more about this. What is Mexico doing to provide assistance to migrants who are returned to that country?
Not a lot, to be honest, Lana. And I think this is a very important question, too, because we've heard President Biden and some of the officials in his administration say that Mexico should be doing a lot more and that migrants are going to be returned to Mexico. But critics say that is causing a humanitarian emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border, especially on the Mexican side, because there's no infrastructure, there's no shelters. A lot of them are closed because of the pandemic. There's no organized effort to welcome these migrants and sort of provide any type of guidance for them to either go back to their home countries or remain in Mexico with a legal status. It has to be said that a lot of them don't want to remain in Mexico because if violence is a factor in Central America, that's also happening in border towns along the U.S.-Mexico border in places like Reynosa, Matamoros, Ciudad Juarez, and other border towns on the Mexican side of the border.
Enrique, we look forward to seeing your piece. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.